Why are there no farmers markets on the north side? There was a real divide when they built Blackpool Shopping Centre. You can see the doors here marked in yellow, and we have the main street of Blackpool in red. What it's done essentially is created an old town and a new town. The new town, though, never really developed as a new town. It's just car park and a series of roads. It was never planned as a town centre, because there you have the library, you have the banks, you have your services. Unfortunately, this is what it looks like. Just awful planning, but we shouldn't be surprised by that. So if we took away some of those car parking spots, look what you can have. You can have a beautiful urban space. I've put in some bins in this mock-up. Oh, bins! I know, Cork City Council, bins. Ooh, scary. The other thing that always really struck me is there's no farmers markets on the north side. We have Wilton, Blackrock, Mahon, Douglas, Ballincollig. At least now, if Blackpool has a beautiful plaza here, it's really a conducive space to having a really lovely farmers market. Perfect. I mean, why not? This urban fabric, these lovely lanterns, the paving, that should be carried down into the old part of Blackpool as well to try and connect it. The old village has a lot of beautiful architecture. It's got mature trees. There's a lot of nice things going for it. Blackpool village suffered a lot of dereliction, and it is really only turning the other side of that now. And that was in no small part to orientating the shopping centre away from the village. You know, we have to deal with what we have. So the town centre has essentially moved, but where it's moved to, there is no town centre. Here's another look at it from up above, and we get another idea of what it looks like. And Blackpool is going to be even more important in the future, because there's hundreds of houses being built in Monard, in Ballyvolane, in Whitechurch, and Blackpool is the kind of proximity urban centre for all of these areas. So there's going to be all of the existing catchment in Grona and Farranree, and now all of these hundreds of new homes as well. We can see the old street in red, and then it'll bring us on to a new town plaza, and then it continues us off on this thoroughfare. When we move past the plaza, then we come into the retail park. So taking some car parking spaces there, putting in some wildflower gardens, maybe some benches, a place where people can enjoy their coffee. As that space stands, it's very imposing. It's 4 walls of 5 stories. The cafe is kind of lost there. There's a Costa Coffee, which is a little lost. It ties in with the railway station. So there's going to be a railway station for Blackpool opening up on the hill there. Here's what we can see in the CMATS plan. And when we have a bridge that will come across, you'll enter into Blackpool via the multi-storey car park. So turning this space into more than just a car parking lot, and maybe you add a pathway then, and all of a sudden, you know, you're entering somewhere that's very vibrant, very nice, very considered. I guess that's the main thing, you know, we're softening the edges of this being a retail park on the edges of Blackpool, because actually this is kind of now the de facto center of Blackpool. So we're really making it less feel like a retail park and more feel like part of the town. When it comes to the last piece of the puzzle then is this large 4.3 acre site that is for sale, and I would love to see this developed as a park. I think the people of Blackpool deserve a playground. I think they deserve some open space. I don't think they should be treated like second-class citizens like they're being treated at the moment. There's no real park in Blackpool. The park that's there at the moment is a flood attenuation lake, and as it stands, they want to change it from this to this. You can't throw a ball in there, right? If you're a kid and you're saying, "Mommy, Daddy, let's go to Blackpool Park," they'll say, "Why? There's no playground there. It isn't big enough to throw a ball around. It's in a valley. And where can we go?" Well, if we wanted to go somewhere else, if we had to go somewhere else, we could go right next door to it. 4.3 acres, you could have a beautiful green space. And look, it connects in. All of a sudden, Blackpool has this flow to it. It's almost like it was planned this way. But you have the old street, a new town plaza, all your services connected through this next thoroughfare with a bit of open space, connection to the train station, and into an adjoining park. Why not? Why not indeed? My biggest fear with this is that Cork City Council will get the wheels moving on a Blackpool Renewal project in about 2030. There's this race that's going on, and the race is essentially developers want to buy land and maximize profits. The City Council is always in this battle. If developers can purchase land and milk it for money, then they'll do that. Limerick City Council have set up a local authority-owned company, and they're tasked with the responsibility of purchasing strategic sites for the public benefit. Dublin has all the money, Limerick has all the initiative, and we're left here with, I don't know, certainly a city that is just feeling so tired, oh so very tired. Private developers are just gonna, put in whatever they can get the most money from. So the opposite of that then is where the city purchases the site. Now the city can still put accommodation, they can still put commercial elements, but it has more space dedicated to what the area needs. It might have a playground, a creche, a school, whatever the area needs, the city can put it there because the city has purchased the space. We have billions in budget surplus. That's not going to last forever, right? Sleepy Cork City Council don't want to be coming to the table in 5 years being like, okay, now we need money. Like, now is the time. We're rich today, but these things don't last forever. The pace of things here, so lethargic, right? Blackpool doesn't need a new town centre today, it needs a new town centre 5 years ago. To enable the change, the transformation, the space has to come from somewhere, and the space is going to come from the car parking spaces. The core element of the town plaza is 21 spaces. The supplemental element that really gives it a sense of space is 31 spaces. And across where we might create a wildflower garden is 51 spaces. Now you might think, you will never remove a car parking space. Look, there's a gigantic, underutilized, multi-story car park 2 minutes away. That's more than double the 103 that we would need to remove to offer Blackpool a sense of public realm. I think it's a really fair trade. The renewed urban fabric needs to continue down the main street before tenants and revitalization happens. McCurtain Street is an obvious example of this, right? When you fix the urban fabric, the people will go. Nice lighting, public seating, bins. There's also a derelict site right by where the Blackpool flyover happens. That's been derelict for so long as I can remember. That should be purchased by the city as well and just turned into open space. You could put coffee truck and a something truck, a few seats, benches, and that really does serve to offer a more connection then. But there's one part of Blackpool that we haven't spoken about, and it's probably one of the more pressing things, and those are the floods. The OPW wants to essentially bury this, right? So they want to take the river and they want to put it underground. There's already over 1 kilometre of culvert happening. So just after the church here, we can see a little bit of this culvert, and it comes out under Christie Ring Bridge. And essentially now what the OPW want to do is extend it. They're like, more culvert, more culvert. And there's another option. So the cheaper option that was preferred is up here. It was an option on the OPW's list of options because there was more than just burying the river, but this option was never presented to the residents. It would be an attenuation lake. So when heavy rains happen, the water would pool there instead of pooling down in Blackpool. Here's a very simple diagram of what that looks like. So we can see here there's nothing, and the water will come down and potentially flood the village. And here, if we have a little bit of a structure upstream, the water pools up there so it doesn't overwhelm Blackpool village. That was the cheaper option, but that option was not presented to the residents, and this resulted ultimately in a court case that the residents won. The problem with the river is the otters live there, right? Cork has about 15 otters. More than half of them, about 3/4 of them, live on the River Bride. So blood on all our hands. We're just going to kill the otters. And maybe you're concerned about wildlife and the environment. We definitely shouldn't be burying rivers underground, killing the entire ecosystem, right? It's just going into a concrete tube. So everything will die, everything will be dead. And we don't need to do that because there's a cheaper alternative that the residents actually wanted. Now, we must be one of the only countries in Europe, maybe the world, that are still culverting and diverting rivers, right? Other places are re-establishing natural river patterns, and we are doing the opposite. I sometimes wonder if the OPW and their construction company are in cahoots or if there's some kind of kickbacks involved, because every project the OPW does always has a huge amount of cement. You know, it's like cement, like where can we use more cement? That's the OPW anyway, an unelected bureaucracy coming in, and the city council are so easily co-opted, right? Because the simple chain is the people elect the councillors are the voice of the people, but that's it, the link is already broken there, right? So then Colin Burke is a perfect example. Look, he's in the paper just last week pushing for this scheme to go ahead. Colin, what are you doing? Don't you represent your constituents? Didn't the people who vote you into power want something else for Blackpool? One other bit of mind-numbing information to show how easily Cork City Council are co-opted by the OPW is that it actually goes against their own development plan. Here we can see in 10.9 section D that development proposals in river corridors shall not involve landfilling, diverting, culverting, or realignment of river and stream corridors. And they say this because this is just best practice. We know that culverting rivers is a bad idea. They're unculverting rivers all over the world. And Cork City Council, they said that we don't want new culverts. But all of a sudden when the OPW come with a culvert, they roll over faster than when I give my kitten a treat. And they say, yeah, put the culvert in. There is an active campaign to try and stop this from happening, and it's the Save Our Bride Otters campaign. And they actually took an injunction against the OPW in court, and they won. The government had to concede that the public consultation was a sham, and they didn't really consult the public at all, yet they were ready to bury this river and kill the ecological corridor. The Blackpool Park, which is already a flood attenuation lake, here's what they want to do with it, right? So I mean, it's just going to be terrible. That looks awful. This is an ecological corridor. The river is in great shape. The mind boggles. Here's another look at this beautiful culvert that they want to do. You can see how the charm it adds, right? I mean, it is awful. The sound of a river is very appealing. They are ecological corridors. This one in particular hosts 3/4 of the Cork's otters. And we're just going to go and kill all the otters. We're going to go and chop down all the trees. We're going to go and bury the river under concrete. That's madness. I don't think we should be doing that. The River Bride flowed all the way into the River Lee unimpeded. In the 90s, a culvert was put there. In 2002, the river flooded for the first time in Blackpool, twice in 1 week. As a result of that, that culvert was widened. And then for 8 years, there was no more problems until 2010, 2012, and 2013. There were big floods in Blackpool, and the primary culprit for that is the same as the one that caused the floods in Douglas. In Douglas, again, another culverted river caused those floods. A tree and all its debris got stuck by the trash screen at the end of Douglas Park, and that's what caused Douglas to flood. So it looks to me as if the trash screens were the cause of it. River culverted, trash screen blocked, village flooded. In Blackpool, not one, not two, but 3 trash screens. 3 opportunities to block the river, and block the river it did on 3 separate occasions over the years. Somebody thought maybe we should remove them, and when we did, Blackpool stopped flooding. It's been 11 years now since the trash screens have been removed, and there hasn't been a flood in Blackpool since. So that's a very positive sign. So it sounds like we've come out of the danger zone, but we still do need to do something, because there is a culvert further on at the church, and that has still the potential to become overwhelmed. And so to prevent that, we can have an upstream catchment area. We don't need to kill the otters. We don't need to chop down the trees. We don't need to bury the River Bride. The plan by the OPW, the plan they decided to just not bother with, it's non-invasive. It doesn't require loads of concrete. But again, if it doesn't require loads of concrete, who's going to profit from it? And the last thing that I always think, in terms of accountability, if they were to go ahead with this culverting scheme and Blackpool were to flood afterwards, I want to know who's going to jail. If we're spending millions and millions on projects that people don't want and they fail, if you're the driving force in the OPW behind ramming infrastructure projects into villages that do not want them and that have better alternatives, I think there needs to be some kind of civic accountability these days,